My net worth's like somewhere like 8, 9, $10 million. I went to work for a restoration company for a year or two. It's 100% commission sales. Had a path to ownership, and they changed their mind about ownership. And I said, all right, well, have a great day. Like, I'm out of here. So I went and started my own company at that point. And maybe a really great skilled tradesman can make 100 grand a year. Maybe they can make 150 grand a year. But what do great leaders make, bro? Like, what do great salesmen make? What do people who put together great businesses make? Like infinity dollars. So if you're going to spend 5 years learning a skill, why are you spending 10,000 hours becoming great at something with a low ceiling when you could take those hours and spend it like in learning real leadership skills, business skills? I like to give people a framework and let them use that framework. And you're 100% correct. Like, the framework is,
Jason, thank you so much for joining me today.
I've never been introduced as a millionaire, but I like it. That sounded nice.
I'd love if you could start by sharing a little bit more about your career path and why you chose that path that you did of working in the trades.
My first memories of being alive are like being on sales calls with my dad when I was little. So my dad grew up in a small town, no college education. He had like a classic rich dad, poor dad situation. And so there's like one wealthy guy in his little town of Snowflake, Arizona. And when my dad came back from serving the LDS mission, the one wealthy guy in town who'd known my dad his whole life was like, kind of spotted my dad as like a guy with some ability and was like, hey, if you move down to Phoenix, I want to start this business. I need someone to run it. If you run it for 3 years, I'll give you 10% ownership of it. My dad's like, dude, I'm going to get mentored by the guy, like the business guru of Snowflake, Arizona. So my dad got into a wood molding business. So they sold like baseboards and, door and trim. And so like a quintessential, unglamorous, unsexy business. But dude, like going on sales calls with my dad, playing golf with clients on Saturdays, working in the warehouse in summers when I was a teenager, like nothing about it was boring to me, dude. It was awesome. Like, my dad had an awesome life. He was a great dad. At this peak, they had 100 employees, and like, dude, it was like nothing about it seemed anything other than really freaking cool, And so like, I just never, I guess I always had a love for those types of businesses. And like, I think my Boy Scout leaders growing up and my friends' dads who did well in their lives, they all just like had used car lots and plumbing companies and, wood molding companies. Like, that was kind of, to me, there was like doctors and lawyers. And then there was people who had weird, boring businesses. And the people with weird, boring businesses seemed to coach the T-ball teams. And the doctors and lawyers seemed to have dope houses and they were never around. So like, I just never occurred to me there was anything other than awesome. So I kind of just always knew that I wanted to follow my dad's footsteps to some extent. And it wasn't that I wanted to do molding, it's that I wanted to have one of these businesses that had people in it and sold products in the community. You know what I mean? Like, I just wanted to be in the community, man. I just wanted to have a business where like I got to just be a guy in town.
That's awesome. As I think about my own life, I think about how can I create a career for myself where it's truly going to align with my values. And I loved what you shared that if you're a small business owner, it doesn't have to be a sexy business, but all of a sudden you're the dad that can coach your son's T-ball team. And that's an amazing thing that adds a lot of value to your life.
If you read, this is, a personal finance pod, if I understand correctly, and like the book for this is like Millionaire Next Door. And it's like an unglamorous business is not just a path, it's kind of the path. Like, there's a real case to be made that your typical millionaire is just some guy living next door who has a scrap metal company. You know what I mean? Like, these dull normal, as Tom Stanley calls them, these dull normal service businesses are kind of just, I mean, maybe if I lived on the East Coast, there'd be a bunch of hedge fund managers and bankers, but like, dude, in Arizona, it's just a bunch of dudes who just started something and got good at it. They're all these dull normal businesses.
Yeah. Okay. So at what age did you first become a millionaire?
That's a great question. My dad, was making like 180 grand a year when I was in high school. He was making 15 grand a month salary and he'd get a bonus or get his equity distribution at the end of the year. So he was making like 250 grand a year when I was in high school. And I thought, I want to make more money than my dad by the time I turned 30. And I was probably 15, 16 when I thought of this goal. And I thought, well, I have to adjust for inflation, or else I'm not really beating him. So I decided at like 15, weird kid that I was, that by the time I turned 30, I wanted to make 400 grand. Um, and so my birthday's in February. So like whatever year I was 29, whatever year I turned 29, that year, my tax return was like $401,000 in taxable income 2 months before I turned 30. At that point, you could probably make the case that maybe my business is worth $1 million if someone was dumb enough to buy it. So you take that and you throw in some equity on a home and some IRA savings. Probably like right around that, 29, 30 years old.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm 28 years old right now, so that means I've got 1 year to get there to match you.
Let's go, baby.
What I love about your story is that clearly you inherited this passion from your dad, and he really gave you the quintessential education, like the home education of here's how to run a business, here's how to be successful, not just in business, but also in life. And then add in maybe a little bit of a competitive spirit. I'm sure you probably love playing sports based on what you've shared so far. Add in a little bit of a competitive spirit, and you really just took that and ran with it and really took the bull by the horn. So, what was the first business that you started on your own that was a business that you owned yourself?
It's the business I still have. It's my well, maybe that's not necessarily true, but my fire and flood restoration company is called Slate Restoration. I started that in 2013 when I was 27, 28. Basically, I come back from my own LDS mission. I'm paying my way through college. I talked about my dad earning a great career, but by 2008, 2009, the recession hit. He was in, building services, and he basically lost his company. And so here I am back from my LDS mission, and I'm like, "Hey, Dad, did you like put any money aside for college?" And he's like, "Well, one, I didn't think you were gonna go, and two, if you did go, I just kind of thought I'd have money to pay for it." And so here he is, like, "I want to go to college. There's no money, so I got to pay my way. I get a scholarship to Mesa Community College, which is not a flex. I didn't know they gave scholarships, but I like could tie my shoes and spell my name right, so they gave me a scholarship. I did that for 2 years, then went to ASU for 2 years. But I guess my point is, in that time, I went and got a sales job, a B2B like biz dev job, marketing to insurance agents to get windshield replacement referrals. Like if you have a State Farm agent, you break your windshield in Arizona, you can call your agent, say, I need a new windshield. They help you file a claim, and they'll also help you find a company that they think's respectable that can replace the windshield for you if you don't have someone in mind. So I started doing marketing for this auto glass company, and I got to know a bunch of insurance agents. And then as the years go by, I didn't agree philosophically with the way that the guy who owned the glass company was running it. I wanted to own my own business anyways one day. I didn't really want to start over. I've been doing it for 3 or 4 years at this point. And so all these insurance agents I got to know, I got a good reputation with them and a good relationship. And I cold called these guys, like all of them. It was a lot of freaking work, dude. So I didn't want to keep doing auto glass. I didn't want to start a competitor because guy gave me a job. I wasn't trying to bone him, but I wanted to keep the momentum going. So if you're an insurance agent, you insure homes and you insure cars. So I'm like, all right, what else can I sell these guys where I can not compete with my boss at the glass company, but still keep this client base? And so I went to work for a restoration company for a year or two, 1099, 100% commission sales, had a path to ownership, and they changed their mind about ownership. I was like really bitter about it at the time. I was like, had all these moral judgments about them at the time. And now I just realized running a business is hard. They made a hard decision, super cool about it, told me. And I said, all right, well, have a great day. Like, I'm out of here. They're like, you can have your job. We're just not going to give you any ownership ever. And I'm like, dude, I'm out of here. So I went and started my own company at that point. There was no non-compete to speak of because I was 1099. They decided not to honor the contract that offered me ownership. So they kind of like, yeah, we know you're going to go do whatever you want. We're cool with that. I didn't touch any of their pre-existing clients. I just kind of took my little book of business and set out on my own. So 2013, I started Slate Restoration.
Wow. Okay, so this is, a couple common trends, and I notice here that from other conversations with other people as well is you go out and you work for someone else, you develop a really valuable skill, which in this case, the skill, so to speak, was actually your relationships that you had with all of these insurance agents. Now that you're in that network, you have all of those relationships, you take the skills that you've learned and then you spin off and you go start another parallel business, so to speak, of another service that you can sell to the same client base.
I'm so grateful that you just articulated that so well because I don't like telling people what to do, but I like to give people a framework and let them use that framework. And you're 100% correct. Like the framework is go get into an industry, relentlessly treat people well, do the Zig Ziglar thing, the go giver thing, where you help other people get what they want. You help enough other people get what they want. You can get whatever you want. And then find a way to, like, in integrity, like, sell something else. You know what I mean? Like, you go work for a home builder and there's a bunch of vendors and there's a bunch of suppliers and there's a bunch of customers and like whatever whoever you're interacting with, just treat them great, like and then use that as a place to build a reputation and build a skill set and then see if you can get into something else. You know what I mean? My buddy was in fire and flood restoration for a long time and he learned a ton of great skills and then he went and started a garage door replacement company, and he'd worked with a bunch of property managers at the restoration company. He treated them great. And he asked these property managers, what other vendors are you using? Oh, well, we do HVAC and plumbing. We do this and we do that. And he looks at his skill set and he's like, all right, I'm more of a salesman than a technician. I'm not really a great plumber. It'd take me 5 years to learn how to be a plumber. But dude, replacing garages is kind of like not that complex. I'll do epoxy flooring. That's not complex. These property managers that love and respect me will send me work. Like, there's a framework there that I've seen work over and over and over again for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that sometimes and I've actually fallen into this trap myself as well. Sometimes it's tempting that without much experience, you want to go out and start your own thing. But then once you do that, you realize, oh man, it would have been so valuable for me to form those relationships first, form those mentorships, learn from others all of the best practices, and then take that and go implement it to start my own thing later on. So that's a really cool perspective. Thank you for sharing.
I'll just share my hot take for what it's worth. And that I think that like the relationship development and the best practices and like the leadership part of it, the sales part of it is underrated. And the learning the skill, the technical aspect of what the business is overrated. Like if your house flooded, I don't know if I could help you dry it. And I've owned a restoration company for 12 years. And so most people would say I'm an idiot for not knowing how to do that. I own a roofing company. I'm not a roofing expert. I own a gutter replacement company. I'm not a gutter expert. But if you read the E-Myth, which is like the greatest small business book of all time, it's like most small business owners, they become great at the thing that they do and they can never get out of it. So you're a great framer. So you start your own framing company. You have no idea how to manage people. You have no idea how to read a P&L. You have no idea how to build relationships. And the one thing you can do is frame, which is the least valuable thing in the business. It's the thing that you pay other people $22 an hour to do. And when you try to hire a framer for 22 bucks an hour, you're like freaking Michael Jordan at framing and you think that everyone else is an idiot and sucks and isn't as good as you and you're like you don't know what you're doing and you're a terrible manager and a terrible trainer. Like it can be really dangerous to say I'm going to become an excellent plumber and start a plumbing company. You just get stuck in the technician role. You don't level up to manager, you don't level up to entrepreneur. You're super judgmental around the technicians. Like it's been a real blessing to me to not know how to run floods because all I know how to do is develop relationships, run a business, build a team, treat my team great. Now I speak conversational restoration, but I don't speak fluent restoration. So like there's minimum a minimum necessary intelligence around the thing that you do, but I actually think that if you're going to spend 5 years getting ready to start a business, it's better to spend 5 years learning how to read a P&L, build relationships, manage people, than it is to spend 5 years learning how to bake cookies because you want to own a bakery. I don't think you need to know how to make delicious cookies to run a bakery. I think that being a great baker is actually all else equal, possibly detrimental to running a good bakery because it keeps you distracted in the doing of the thing and not in the running of the business.
Wow, that's great advice. And, if I were to take everything you just said and try and sum it up for my brain, I would say some of the most valuable skills you can develop are sales and leadership. And of course, business management as well.
Yeah, people who work in the trades, skilled tradesmen, like I love the skilled trades, dude. Like I'm not going to be one to condescend to the skilled tradesmen. They're amazing, and maybe a really great skilled tradesman can make 100 grand a year. Maybe they can make 150 grand a year. But what do great leaders make, bro? Like what do great salesmen make? What do people who put together great businesses make? Like infinity dollars. So if you're going to spend 5 years learning a skill, why are you learning the skill that like caps out a lot of times at 70 or 80 grand? And if you're like a world class electrician, it's 140 grand. But like, why are you spending 10,000 hours becoming great at something with a low ceiling when you could take those hours and spend it like in learning real leadership skills, business skills, sales skills, relationship development skills that not only have higher value in the marketplace, but I'm careful not to go off on too much of a tangent here, but like those are also skills that like Jackson, I don't have to know you to know that you really want to be a good husband and you really want to be a good dad. And I know you want to serve in your church community. And I know you want to coach a T-ball team. Well, guess what, dude? Being a great electrician does not make you a good dad, but being a great leader makes you a good dad. So, like, why not get out and get some skills that I know you're going to want to have for all the other areas of your life where you want to make a difference?
Wow. Love that. Great mic drop. So I'm curious to know, shifting here a little bit as we think about, okay, you've developed these skills of sales, leadership, people management. I'm curious about the financial side of things since obviously I'm a personal finance guy. When you're making, like, let's say, your business, you got it up and running, now it's cash flowing pretty well for you. Are you reinvesting that money back into the business, or are you taking some of it and putting it somewhere else as like a personal war chest or personal investments?
Yeah, so, like, right out of the gate, maybe it's because I was marketing to insurance agents, maybe because I was, like, on the math challenge team in elementary school, but, like, for whatever blessing in my life, or maybe I just watched my dad go broke. I watched my dad and every other rich guy I knew go broke, like, right in my early 20s. I feel like I'm a child of the Great Depression. I'm, like, very scarred by all these Boy Scout leaders getting their boats repoed. I'm like, "I thought this guy had infinity dollars. Like, what happened, dude? Like, what's a HELOC? What do you mean he was just spending borrowed money?" Like, it really freaked me out. And so, like, 22 years old, I was, maxing out, maybe 23, 24, but somewhere in my early 20s, I was maxing out a Roth IRA for myself and maxing out a Roth IRA for my wife. So I read, in my childhood, it's like if you take one part how to Win Friends and Influence People, one part E-Myth, one part Millionaire Next Door, and one part Automatic Millionaire. Those are probably like the 4 books that kind of shaped me in my early 20s and kind of set a foundation for my philosophy. And Automatic Millionaire is just like, dude, you got to pay yourself first and live on what's ever left. Like it occurred to me that my budget is 98% of what's in my checking account. Like that's my budget. So if there's 20 grand in my bank account, then I'm gonna spend $19,900. Like if there's 4 grand in my bank account, I'll spend $3,900. So I need to make sure there's not a lot of money in my bank account. So pushing it, either leaving it in my business where I didn't think of it as mine for working capital, or pushing it into a Roth IRA for me and then a Roth IRA for my wife. And then when I had enough money, then there's more money left over, getting a 401k for me and getting a 401k for my wife, and like just pushing it away into something tax advantage helped me. I just shoved money where I couldn't see it and lived on the rest. It was not the most sophisticated, but I'm an entrepreneur because I don't want to be told what to do and I don't want to be constricted. So envelope system, Dave Ramsey, budget, buckets of money, not that's not going to work for me. But if you just get rid of a bunch of my money and leave me 3 grand for the month, I'll just go, "Oh, crap, I don't have any money," and I'll just not spend anything. Like that was what worked for me in my, early to mid 20s. And I had smart people in my life say, "Listen, I'm trying to like optimize my freaking return." I'm like, "Rule of 72, the difference between 11%, 8% is $87 trillion by the time I'm 100." Like I was like all worried about return. And I had a smart, like, finance grad in my life was like, "Dude, you don't have enough money. Just shut up and just save some money, and when it hits 100 grand, call me and I'll like, until then, just stick it in a S&P index fund and go back to work." So I was just like Vanguard index funding it, just throwing some money around, those tax advantaged. Everything else I left in my business. Or, I was like I was like IRA, buy a mortgage, make extra payments on my mortgage. Okay. Working capital, like some sort of order of that. I was like, those are kind of the buckets I was doing as I got more money, paying off my debt. Yeah. That kind of stuff. So that kind of combination of things was swirling around in my mid-20s, buying a house, making an extra mortgage payment here or there, and then taking advantage of tax-advantaged retirement assets.
Okay, gotcha. There's something really to be said for creating a system of finances that's going to work for you. And you really hit on the key point here, which is one of the things that's going to move the needle the most is your behavioral approach to your finances. And you did that by taking, basically skimming money off the top and sending it to your retirement accounts first. And you just have whatever's left over to spend. You're paying yourself first. And you're reinforcing that behavioral habit of always paying yourself first. So I actually think that's really smart. That's cool.
Automatic Millionaire, I think, called it artificial poverty. Or maybe even Dave Ramsey might have even co-signed it once on an episode where he's like, listen, y'all need to do, Dave Ramsey's not one for flexibility. He's normally like, do what Dave Ramsey says. But I think even he said, hey, if you're not good at budgeting, dude, just hide your life like the Monopoly game, like hide some money under the board and forget you have it. You know what I mean? And play on what's left. So I just kind of did the artificial poverty thing through my 20s. And then if you want to, we can get into, what happened when I had a little more than a few extra bucks lying around. I had to make a little more sophisticated decisions, but that's definitely how I got started.
Yeah. Okay. So you're in your late 30s now. What's your current net worth? And How is that broken down between how much you have in your business versus how much you have in retirement accounts, et cetera?
Yeah, my net worth's like somewhere like 8, 9, $10 million, which is kind of weird to say. It's kind of weird to say out loud. I actually think about it a lot personally because I'm like, like it's, something that's important to me to be a good steward over. But it breaks down weirdly, Jackson, to like 50% real estate. I have about $5 million of the real estate equity. I had a goal I bought my dream house in 2018, and I had a goal to pay it off by the time I was 35, which was maybe, I'm 39 now. So 4 years ago. So I bought it. Anyways, paid off my dream house. I bought it for 700 grand, probably put 125 into it. I was into it about 825, and I paid it off. That house went bananas. It's like, it's worth like two and a half, $3 million now. And I own it free and clear, which is
Wow.
pretty cool. And I don't live in it anymore. It's now it's a rental property. It does not like my cash on it, if you look at what it's worth versus what it returns, I'm getting like a 1% return on it, but it doesn't matter. I love it with all my heart and I'm not ready to sell it. So I have a few $1 million I have two and a half, $3 million in equity in that home. I made it a goal to never sell real estate. Whatever house I bought, if I wanted to buy another house and I had to sell the first house to buy the second house, I couldn't afford the first house or couldn't afford the second house is my theory. So like, do not sell real estate, period. So I broke that rule once, so I've sold one house, but basically I'm up to like six pieces of real estate. I own the building that I run my businesses out of. I bought that for 800 grand 5 years ago. It's worth like 1.5, 1.6. Paid the note down to like 500 grand. I would have paid it off, but there was a prepayment penalty, so I couldn't really pay it off. So $1 million equity in that building, two and a half, $3 million equity in my old primary residence. I live in San Clemente, California. I put 700 grand down on a house here that I bought for 1.8 million. It's probably worth 2 million. We owe about 1 million. So there's about $1 million in equity in that, maybe a little bit less. The first house my wife and I bought's a rental, paid that off, and that's worth maybe 400 grand. I own a dentist office that I split with a buddy, and then a little piece of a building in Utah. So there's about $5 million there. I have about $1 million in retirement savings, like K and IRA that we talked about earlier. That's grown and grown and grown, close to $1 million. I have a couple hundred grand in stocks that are they're non-tax. What do you ever call that? They're not tax advantage. They're just in a brokerage account. That's a couple hundred grand there. A couple hundred grand in like money markets, just kind of like emergency fundish type money. And then the rest of the equity's in my business. And so like year to year, day to day, if I have a great year in my businesses are worth, theoretically 5, 6, 7 million. And then my net worth's 12, 13 million. And there's like years like 2024, we had a tough year. And I'm like, luckily, I'm not selling it because I don't think it's worth that much this year. So like, that's the kind of the moving target piece, but certainly, a few million bucks in equity in those businesses if I were to sell them.
Wow. Okay, that's amazing. So anywhere between, depending on where your businesses are valued, 8 to 12 million dollars of net worth at 39 years old. If you're feeling behind in your finances and aren't sure of the next step forward, reach out to me. I have a limited number of individual coaching spots available and would be happy to help you. Use the link in the description below to reserve your free consultation today. What would you say has been the number one factor that has helped you build wealth over time?
I've lived below my means like my entire adult life, and that's mostly because I'm good at making money. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't always look like I'm living below my means. But like for the income category that I'm in, like I don't, like my buddies have helicopters and, third houses and, they do stuff that I don't do. So like I'm pretty conservative with my money. I made some intelligent real estate purchases. I have smart friends and I like ask my smart friends, "Hey, what are you doing with your money? Like, can I put my money wherever your money is?" Like commercial real estate friends that I bought commercial real estate with, residential real estate friends that I ask for residential real estate advice from. I'm not a huge fan of putting more money in the stock market than I can get tax advantage for. That's like my don't eat dog food when I'm old account. If I put 50 grand a year into 1Ks and IRAs, like that'll be a big pile of money when I'm old and I'll be okay. But the rest, I either bet on myself and my businesses or I buy real estate. And I like real estate and I like small businesses. I can wrap my brain around them. I'm good at them. I can make a difference in my businesses. So I think those have been a combination of what's helped me succeed with some good luck and some good fortune in the real estate market for sure.
That's awesome. One of the common trends I'm hearing here between interviews is this idea of surrounding yourself with really smart people. You almost want a council of advisors, so to speak, of mentors and peers that can give you good advice in their area of expertise. And it sounds like you have a lot of those for real estate investing, for financial decisions. You have those people that you can lean on and get their opinion when you're looking to make a big decision.
100%. And like just my vision. Like I just have a friend, and he's like, nowhere to be found on social media, nowhere to be found in, like except in his home and his community where he serves. But like the dude is just a killer, and he's so smart and he's so ambitious and he's so, if I dare say, like so Christ-like, dude. He's so service oriented and he makes such freaking good money. And he's like one of those guys who's like got a hockey stick income where he's like delayed gratification, invested in himself, invested in his education, invested in relationships, invested in doing right by people, learn and learn and learn. And then just like in the last 5 years, like unleashed a lifetime of intelligence and hard work and discipline and doing right by people and expertise accumulation. And now he's just ripping. And it's like so funny to like have a friend where like if I make $1 million a year, it's like I'm like, I could make the case that I'm like the brokest of my friends, and it's like, but they're all doing great things, or they're all good men. They're all serving in their church community. They're serving in their families. They're doing great things. You wouldn't know how incredibly, you wouldn't know how incredibly wealthy they are. And you also wouldn't know how much of it they give away, how much, you know what I mean? Like how much they serve others. And to be on the inside and watch these great men do great things is like, it kind of normalizes it. Like I didn't get a chance to say this, but when I was a kid, you said that, that you would assume I'm competitive, and I am competitive, but like wanting to make more money than my dad was like didn't primarily come from a place of competition. It came from my dad when I was growing up just being like, "Son, I grew up in Snowflake, Arizona with a standard diploma and like a school teacher mom and a school teacher dad, like, and I got to here. Like, here's where I am. And like, son, all I can tell you is you're getting a better upbringing than I got financially. You're getting a better education business wise from me than I got from my school teacher dad. You're surrounded by young men's leaders and Boy Scout leaders that are like incredible examples that are also great friends. So you have a network of your, he's like, I know your friends are going to grow up and do more with their lives, and my friends grew up and do their lives. Like my dad's like, you have every tailwind that I didn't have. And my dad's like, and you're twice as smart as me, and you're twice as charismatic as me, and you're twice as cool as me, dude. Like it wasn't a hype speech. He wasn't like hyping me up. He just really normalized it. It wasn't like, like I have daughters and a son, and like with my daughters, I'm like, you're beautiful and special. Like it wasn't like he wasn't like trying to make me feel good. It was observational. It was like, dude, you're like so much cooler than me and so much smarter than me. Like, man, I can't wait to see what you do because like, oh, you'll just crush. I'm like, well, what should I do? And I go, who cares? Something like whatever, dude. Whatever you do, you'll be great. And it was so matter of fact. And my Boy Scout leaders made money, and my dad made money. And my dad just sort of gave me like a belief that was like, I didn't have, it wasn't like, there was no pressure. It was just very observational. And so it's just, I was surrounded in my childhood with this like, belief that everyone just grew up, like I grew up like with this belief that it would be immoral or like criminal for me not to like go do something important and meaningful in my career because I had every tailwind and every advantage. If my dad got to X, I should get to 5X or like I'm an idiot, like, but it wasn't in a pressure way. It was like in a matter of fact way. You know what I mean? Like, it was just very matter of fact. And so now I surround myself with men that are also just like by matter of fact, just like God's given, like, we woke up on third base and we're going to try to steal home. Like, there's this mix of humility and stewardship and responsibility and confidence where it's like, yeah, dude, we just go do stuff. And when we do stuff, we bring our best self to it, and we bring eternal principles to it, and we bring character to it, and we bring integrity, and we bring a service orientation to it, and we bring a stewardship attitude to it. And like, yeah, like it might fail because we're not God, but like doesn't seem like it would fail. It seems like you stir all those ingredients together and like something dope's gonna happen. So like we have every reason to believe it'll be great, and like all the humility that if it fails, we'll just try again. And so there's this sort of culture of the people I spend my life with that it's like very matter of factly high performing. And so I just yes, who I surround myself with, from like the way my dad raised me to the way my young men's leader modeled wealth and service and being good guys. Like it's why I'm like, anyways, I don't want to go for a tangent, but it's why like I don't understand like the political movement of like rich people are evil. I'm like, maybe they mean like people richer than the rich people I knew. Cause like all the wealthy people I knew were like the greatest. They ran boring businesses where like they made money because they served their community. Their community was like, here's my money. Like, you have a framing company, you frame my house. You're a plumber, you plumb my house. Like, they were just good men and women who just served in their community. Like, I have like a very high opinion of wealthy people in the context of my childhood and my adulthood. Like, I'm just surrounded by these incredible men and women who just sort of normalize it for lack of a better term. And so, yeah, it's like I don't want to get left behind. And they're just, I don't seem smarter than them. I don't seem demonstrably dumber than them. So like, let's just go do whatever they do.
Wow, that's amazing. I love that your dad really instilled that inner sense of confidence in you from early on. Like that's one of the best gifts that a dad can give his child is believing in him.
Well, what was crazy about that, I know I've already said this, but just to reiterate for the parents out there, I've seen so many parents give their kids like disorders. That's not the word I'm looking for, but like psychological issues. Like son and like they project all their hopes and dreams onto their kid, or like they need their kid to do something. Like dance moms, you know what I mean? Or like dads who got cut from the basketball team, so they get their kid private basketball coach and say, "You can make the basketball team, Johnny. You can be great." But like it's filled with like all this like projecting of their own weird stuff onto their kids. Like there was none of that. It was just very like, son, like I mean, yeah, like there's just no other to describe it than my dad. Like let me know what he observed in me. Like no, just like he was reading the news, man. It was not projecting any of his stuff. He did not need me to be anything, but he's just like, hey, like just so you know, like you're 10 times more talented than I am with 10 times more connections. Like, you don't like money doesn't make you happy, but like if you wanted to go start something, I bet like you just would do a good job. And it was just like that was what was so powerful about it is it just didn't come with like it wasn't like
Expectations.
yeah, he needed nothing from me. He was just letting me know what he saw in me in a really beautiful way. Yeah.
That's amazing. So thinking about, these lessons you've learned from your dad, your own personal experience, the examples that you've had from people in your church community, what sort of personal legacy do you want to leave?
Oh, thank you for asking. I every year um I've been surrounded by these great men and women in my life, right? So I'm thinking of a few different activities I've done. One is like every year, multiple times a year, I'll envision my 50th birthday and I imagine who's there and we go around the room, we think about what they say about me. There's the man in the arena quote that says like those that get in the arena in the end they know the great enthusiasms. Says they know the great enthusiasm. In the end, they'll know the triumph of high achievement. Well, they'll know the agony of defeat, but they'll never, stand among the cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. And so, that phrase, "great enthusiasms," really struck me through the heart. Like on my deathbed, there'll be men and women who have benefited from my enthusiasm. I think I get emotional because I've been running away from that most of my life. People will say I'm fun or I'm funny and or that, like, "Oh, Jason, he's such a big personality," and I always thought that was so cheap, like, I wanted it for people to see something much deeper in me than that, and as I get older, I kinda go, hey, that's cool, man. That's cool that I can be joyful and bring energy, and I can infuse energy and enthusiasm into people's lives, and so I'll be known for my great enthusiasm, and my mission statement is to do as much good as I can, to as many people as I can, according to my talents, opportunities, and passions. So I think that God gave me my interest for a reason, and I'm not interested in helping you move, and I'm not interested in sitting down and being still, and I'm not interested. There's a bunch of things I'm not interested in. There's certain jobs in my church I'm not interested in having, and I used to think, well, I need to develop the things I don't have. It's like, no, dude. Like, what if God just has me like what I like because he wants me to like it because that's where I can make a difference. So, what I like is sales. What I like is leadership. What I like is iterating and ideating on ideas. What I like is hyping people up and giving them enthusiasm while giving them grounded, realistic advice for what it takes to be a millionaire or start a business. Like, I love helping people. So, I'm going to help as many people as I can, but I'm going to help them the way I like to help people. I'm gonna talk to them. And one of the ways I like to help people is like, dude, like if you're in your 20s and you're thinking about starting a business, dude, like no one will be kinder to you than me. No one will be more generous with their time. No one will give you better rock solid advice. If you want to start a boring service business and you're 20 something, like I'm your guy, dude. You want to be a dentist, you want to be a banker, you want to get a master's. I have no idea how to help you. You know what I mean? Like, but if like you want to start a
Yeah.
boring service business, I will be the most enthusiastically willing to serve you for 2 or 3 hours, 1 hour at a time. Like, I'm just here for a good time, not a long time. Like, I will help you, and then I will set you free, and may God bless you on your journey. So I love having 2 or 3 conversations with an aspirational entrepreneur. I love building service businesses. I love building teams. Those are some of the ways I plan on making an impact, and the way it'll be measured is at my 50th birthday and my 60th and my 70th. If my wife were to invite everyone in my life to my birthday party, and if she were gonna say, "Hey, before we cut the cake, we're gonna go around the room and say what Jason means to you," what you'd find is you're gonna find a bunch of people at my birthday that are 10, 20 years younger than me, and they'll just say, "Dude, Jason just showed up in my life." Like, I don't know how, I don't know where. Like, maybe a friend told me that some guy would talk to me if I wanted to start a plumbing company, or, or he was my seminary teacher, or he was, my dad's buddy or whatever. But like, there's going to be hundreds and hundreds of kids, 10 to 20 years younger than me that will call me, text me and say, "Hey, I heard you be nice to me and give me some advice." And then I will. I'll give them advice and I'll help them and I'll bless them and I'll give them good advice. And that like really aligns for me. And so professionally, I'll keep growing and scaling service businesses and helping grow leaders and men and women who can serve their community and serve their families and like really develop leadership skills inside the businesses that I have an ownership stake in. And then outside of that, I'll just teach seminary and coach volleyball and have random 27-year-olds call me and say, "I want to start X business in Y territory," and person Z said, "If I call you, you'd give me some advice." And I'll just keep doing that for as long as I'm alive or until I get some other inspiration on what might be highest and best use of my time.
Well, Jason, in the short time that we've had to interact together, there's a few key takeaways that I've learned from our conversation. The first one is just how valuable the gift of enthusiasm is. It was like as soon as you got on the call, I knew you were someone I wanted to talk to and I wanted to hear your story. And I hope you realize just how valuable that gift is, and it sounds like you do. The second key takeaway that I've learned from you is the importance of having a vision for what you want your life to look like. And you talked about that 50th birthday party. Who's going to be at my birthday party and what are they going to say about me? And it's clear that you've been very intentional with your approach of how you want to create your life. And then the last big takeaway that I've noticed is that I really think you're the epitome of someone that knows how to build wealth, not just on paper, but knows how to build a rich life of filled with meaningful relationships, filled with service and giving back to other people. And I just think it's absolutely incredible. I feel so blessed to be able to talk to you today. So thank you for sharing your wisdom with me.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thank you for giving me a platform. I'm so impressed with the way that like you've picked up on everything that I would hope you'd pick up. You know what I mean? Like it's that's not a cheap compliment. Like I think that your ability to sort of synthesize information and distill it into the key learnings like is really incredible. What a skill, man. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Oh, well, thank you. And for any of those aspiring entrepreneurs that want to start a sweaty trade business, where can they find you? How can they connect with you?
Because of my ADHD, I have very little social media. I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn. My middle name's Lewis, Louis. So for all, if there's a lot of Jason Jarvises out there, I guess maybe try Jason Lewis Jarvis. You can find me there. And then just like a bunch of random podcasts. And then other than that, like you can come to my seminary class in San Clemente or catch me at the beach playing volleyball, or you can get my cell phone number from anybody in my life and I'll give you 3 phone calls, man. Like, I'll give you 3 phone calls for free. I'm not selling anything, I'm not doing anything, but if you come find me, I'll be nice to you, and then I'll get bored, and I'll say, "Go figure it out from here." But, like, you get my cell phone number, I'll give you 3 phone calls just, to make sure that I'm fulfilling my end of the bargain with God, who keeps making my life great. In exchange, I keep saying, "Well, I'll try to help as many other people as I can for as long as I can in whatever arena I have any skill."
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I hope there are lots of people that take advantage of that invitation from you. And Jason, it's been an absolute pleasure.
No, before we sign off, it occurred to me my new business partner and I we're gonna buy and grow service businesses together, and he's got a great social media presence, and eventually we're gonna turn his podcast and his social media presence into something we run together, where we'll just be talking about stuff like this, and it may not happen for months, but regardless of when it happens, he's a great follow. His name's Garrett Larson, and he has a podcast called Talking Trash with Garrett the Trash Man. He sold his trash business, and now we're in the gutter business together and getting in the roofing business together, and we'll grow some other companies together. But if you go find Garrett Larson, he's a great social media follow on Instagram or X or LinkedIn or any of them. And then eventually you'll hear him and I sharing all of our adventures in buying, growing, starting boring service businesses together.
Thanks so much for watching. And don't forget to subscribe to the show for more episodes like this one.